Hmm.
Preparing to live stream the meeting. So anybody who's there, give us a second. We'll be with you in a moment.
Hmm.
Preparing to live stream. Oh, there we go. I switched my volume off on that side because otherwise it gets very confusing given that we have a bit of a delay.
Yeah,
But we're here. We're online. We have arrived. So
we have arrived.
we have arrived. We're still good and early. Give it a few seconds before we start because at least if it gets beyond the first minute or so, hope you're all
Hmm.
well. Hope you're all doing great. Thank you very much for being with us today already. Cheers.
Yes, cheers. Thank you for joining us.
Oh,
Absolutely.
love it. Love it. And you know what that is as well? That's some of that structured water stuff, that
Yes,
Stephen introduced us to care of that. This is all structured water I'm drinking these days. Coherent structured water.
nice.
Yeah. Donna's with us.
Hi,
Yay,
Donna. Welcome. Thank you.
Donna. Woo, woo. Right. Okay. So what do you reckon? Shall we crack on? We've now got
Yes.
that magical 1601. So, all right. So, okay. Well, here we go then. Three, two, one. Hi there, everybody. This is John Drew here from Elevated Planet.
And Jolé Gabrielle here from Elevated Planet. And we'd like to welcome you to today's show, where I could say it's going to be quite out there. John's going to tell us more about it.
Out there it is. And, there's a lot of galactic stuff going on here. But we do have some of us humans involved as well along the way, including Lee Harris. And gratitude as well to Michael Sandler, from whom we borrowed sections of his interview. And we'll put a link to that on the in the details below, just to give full access to the full interview, because obviously we only extract a small amount of it, but it's the important stuff that we want to focus on that kind of gives us a clue as to where we're going. And there's some really good stuff there. Because I know one of the comments we got last week was because it was all based on fear, right? And overcoming fear. But the fear thing obviously gets to a few people and think, well, hang on a second, this feels a bit dark. He's not intended to be dark. He's intended to empower us over the darker energies that are out there, being realistic and not putting our heads in the sand and pretending it's not happening, but understanding, building an understanding of the reality around us so that we can, transcend this into a higher form from 3D to 5D, and that's the journey we're on into our world of unspeakable beauty. So it's an exciting journey. So yeah, for today, we got Lee Harris doing some of it. We got the Z's when he's channeling the Z's doing part of it as well. And it gives us interesting topics of discussion, which will then expand outwards. And then we have Elena Danaan. And Elena was one of the people at the Galactic Spiritual Informers Conference in Eastbourne that I went to in May. A remarkable lady. And, I'm deep into her work now and will continue to be so because I think that Elevated Planet will explore her work in more depth as well. Because again, there's a lot of empowerment that comes through the exploration of this. So, yes, we're going to be a little bit out there, unapologetically out there. And, for those for whom it is well beyond your boundaries of your version of reality, just kind of, it's up to every single person. We never ask anybody to accept our version of the truth, our version of reality. But what we do hope is that it sparks curiosity, that you explore it for yourself and then make up your own mind, but also trying to keep your mind open. Because there was it the Dalai Lama quote, the mind is like a parachute. It works best when it's open. Thank you, Dalai Lama. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say at this point. And Jolé, what would you care to add before we go to the first section?
I second that emotion, John. It's really important for us to expand our minds and to just get out of what we see around us because there's so much more to it. And I think the way that this show is going to unfold nice and gently and easily, it's really going to make sense for your mind to be able to open.
Yes, absolutely. And just before we go to that, we've got
We
Denise
got
with us now, happily joining us from Vancouver Island today, beautiful Vancouver Island. Uh,
welcome.
also got Joy Castleman. She's with us from Yorkshire, about
Hi, Joy.
50 miles north of where I am, and that's a beautiful part of the world that Joy is living in there as well. So thank you. Thank you to all of us, all of you who are here with us today, supporting the Elevated Planet cause, our community. Exciting times, new Earth, exciting times, and this is all about the journey to the new Earth and
Yes.
what to expect in the years ahead. And this is the good news: is that the Z's have got a lot of encouraging things to say. It's not necessarily going to be a straight line to get there, but there's a lot of good stuff to look forward to, and I think that's what this is really about.
Yes.
So, should we do it, Jolé? Should we hit the button?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes. Let's hit the button.
yes. Okay. All right. Here we go, guys. Bear with me a second.
They say if you're still alive, get curious about what's next for you to experience because it's not a mistake that you're alive. There's a reason you're alive. They say it's very easy to die. It's very easy to be taken out by your soul, and your soul will decide when it's time. And your soul, they always say, will decide when it's time based on others. This is one of the things that came up in the audiobook, which was educational to me. They said, you sometimes think as humans that your death is all about when it's correct for you to die. But they say that you always, at a soul level, weigh up the timing of your death as to how and when it's going to affect your community. So they used in the book Princess Diana as an example of someone who catalyzed a lot of grief and healing because she was a very focal point to, so many people all over the world. That the timing of her death was very impactful for everybody. And equally, those of us who aren't, globally known like she was, the timing of our death is going to correspond with how it's going to affect our closest people and how it's going to positively or negatively affect their lives. And I found that very interesting. It's why certain people hold on. You go, why are they still holding on? Because it isn't quite time yet for the daughter or the granddaughter, but at the right time, it will be time. It's funny. I personally have never believed that we are here to control our reality to only be light, joy, because I don't think that's what this planet is. I think this planet has all of those things, but this planet is everything. And we've all incarnated at a time where, the war imprint, which the Z's refer to actually in the audiobook, they talk about the war imprint.
Yeah. What
And
does
how
that mean?
well, they say that the war imprint is man-made. It's not that there aren't galactic wars, and they talk about that too. They say there have been wars for just since forever. But they do say that there are groups on this planet who are for it, and there are other groups who are against it. So in a way, we're in a frequency war, meaning those who are here to create more love, compassion, caring with one another and for the planet, they're one group. And those who are here to, shall we say, control and oppress humanity, they're a different group. So I think what's so painful for all of us when we see this happening is, to us, it looks like sheer insanity. For the people pushing the buttons, the question is going to be, at what point does, this is what I think, at what point does the gap between governmental control and the people lessen? At what point does that gap get closer? And I think that's where we are as a society right now. Equally, I think we incarnate into this planet knowing that when we're gone, it's actually an easier state of being. So I again, I think with anyone who you're losing right now, whether it's through the war or whether it's through other things that happen to, all of us in life, we experience things ourselves or we lose someone in a tragic car accident or any of that stuff. I think there's a human aspect to it that we go through as a grief process and a horror process. And then there's also a spiritual perspective. And I think from a spiritual perspective, this lifetime that you're in is seen as an experience. But from your identity or from my identity, it can get a lot more charged emotionally and mentally. So it's, there's no way to see it. It's all going to be personal. It's all going to be your perspective. But I do, I think what's so devastating for so many of us about these wars is the insanity of them. And when you realize that they're really about the redistribution of wealth, power, and resources, and that people are not considered in those things. People, we're told that we are, but we're not. And there are so many people who've researched that and have much more insight on that than I have. But I've heard from those people, I've read a lot, and yeah, it's one of the biggest shadows on our planet.
I always find the subject of death very interesting, and not in a macabre sort of way, in fact, quite the opposite, in a joyous kind of way. Here, the Z's care of Lee tell it as it is. My understanding is that we have exit points built into our pre-birth life plan, but that the choice of which exit is taken depends on the wisdom of the soul and the overarching knowledge of the bigger picture that surrounds us. And one very important point that Lee makes here is that due to the nature of the roller coaster of emotions that we experience here in the physical realm, the ultimate release represented by death, or our transition from the physical body as it could be more accurately described, is to an easier state of being. And I'm convinced that that is an understatement. We choose our life on earth to experience the contrast presented by duality. Once we cross the veil and go home, we are back to our normal existence of love and light, because that is who we really are. We are light, whose vibration has been slowed massively so that we can assume physicality, which is far from our natural state as non-physical consciousness. We are here to experience things that cannot be experienced in the non-physical realm. And believe it or not, we are here to enjoy ourselves, regardless of the war imprint and all the other distractions playing out right now. Be mindful that many people are here on the planet to act as catalysts for the change from duality to new Earth unity-based consciousness. Princess Diana was one of these, and many others agreed to die in wars or as victims of weather weapons, as we're seeing playing out a great deal right now, so that we finally take a stand and say no longer in my name. We take back our power, and indeed that consciousness revolution is already well underway. But don't expect mainstream media to be reporting on it anytime soon. Understanding our power as individuals and our enormous power as a collective is the foundation of the success that is already unfolding around us. There is still plenty of time for people to experience their trigger points to awakening on their individuated journeys, and it could get quite lively along the way as part of these frequency wars that are playing out. But always remember, regardless of appearances, everything is in divine order. We can be on our eagle's perch. We can find our divine neutrality, which means that we avoid feeding fear and anger and those negative emotions into the quantum field, which only accentuate its growth. We are going to be on the other side of that equation, offering love, light, compassion, and kindness, and all the good stuff that helps to raise the frequency around the planet to the fifth dimension and beyond, and of course our world of unspeakable beauty. So Jolé, what would you care to add?
That war imprint is not just outside of us. It is also inside of us, and that is a great place to begin to dismantle it, is within us. And it's because we've been so focused on our intellect, and there's so much duality around knowledge. When we become one with our heart and our soul, we really step into the wisdom. And in that wisdom, it gives us power because we start to critically think, and we pair that with our intuition. And that's what wisdom's all about. But the war imprint has us doubting ourselves, has us second guessing our connection to the divine and our sovereignty and freedom. And so let's begin by working out the duality within us, by giving credence to our feelings at times, of course, with guardrails, with rules, and in alignment with the laws, of course. However, let's really give ourselves the credit that we deserve, and our intuition, let's work with that so that we can then sit in from a heart-centered place. We can create unity within ourselves, which then what reverberates out into our environment.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love that. Okay, thank you very much, Jolé. And now back to the Z's.
What we see happening for humanity in the coming 5 to 10 years is a series of radical shifts and many improvements. There will be many improvements around health, around vitality and well-being for humans that this technology can usher in, but it will all depend where the control around the technology is. You are also at a time where your human health systems are going through a breakdown and a shift because they have become, we will say, corrupted in many ways. Now, we have to be careful when we say that, because the truth is, if you removed your human health system tomorrow, you would all be in trouble because you have become dependent on it, understandably. But what we are saying is the power of this technology to serve those on the planet versus to be used to create more power for those in power on the planet. That is the battle that you are in right now. And it's no different to the battle you've been in all of this time before AI appeared. So you are going to see great advances. You are also going to see some areas where AI creates or causes what we will call a certain level of damage. And it is when that damage is seen, witnessed, and felt by humanity, stronger calls for control will rise. At the moment, people do not know what they do not know. And until certain things have played out, there will not necessarily be regulations put in place to protect that from happening again. We can tell you between 2026 and 2028, you are going to see some extraordinary breakthroughs in human health. The ability to repair people's ailments, illnesses, in ways that you have never seen in your generation. And these are going to be brought forward. We know some of you worry that these things get suppressed. They will not be suppressed. They will come forward. And that will change the game for so many people and so many aspects of society. But equally, you are going to see a reckoning between humans and leadership around the world regarding how humans are able to survive and provide for themselves with the rise of technology replacing what you would call human jobs and work. So that is going to be ultimately a very positive reckoning that takes place, but it will take a few years to play out fully, and it will require humans standing up for their rights, which they will. And at times it will be charged and seem intense emotionally to some of you, but it will be the breakthrough that is required to shift humanity forward into a different place when it comes to technology versus humanity instead of technology with humanity.
Some will be familiar with the subject of medbeds, these miraculous devices that do not just resolve diseases but can even assist people in regrowing limbs that have been lost. Indeed, such a thing happened for a man by the name of Tony Rodriguez, who lost an arm while defending a friend from an attack by a reptilian while on the Mars base. So, in one short sentence there, I know I've completely lost any remaining credibility with those who are unaware of the fact that humans have a base on Mars already, through the secret space program, which is just a small section of the unacknowledged special access projects. Regardless, I'll put a link to Tony's website in the details below so you can explore for yourself and make your own mind up. But I'll give you a clue, it's all true. But shh, don't tell anybody, it's secret. Anyway, my understanding is that medbeds are already under production on the moon, and yes, it stands to reason that if we're already on Mars, then clearly we have to have moon bases. And of course, there are not just humans up there. Meanwhile, production can take place in secret, allowing the rollout to humanity to appear like this is something new, rather than something that has been withheld. These things are completely game-changing and will, in time, replace the corruption of the pharmaceutical and health service industry that have been designed around profiteering and control rather than to serve humanity. And that is not to denigrate those wonderful health service workers who do their best for the people, albeit based on a misinformed educational system. We know that the Rife machine created by Royal Rife that was produced over 100 years ago was completely suppressed, as its use of frequencies to simply cancel out cancer did not offer the profits that the industry demanded from operations, radiation, long-term care, and the use of drugs. We can look forward to the rollout of medbeds in various obscure forms in the years ahead. Till then, it will be our secret that they've been available a lot longer than will be claimed. So, shh, don't tell anybody.
For the younger people who are coming in, they cannot get so involved with Earth. They cannot get so involved with old earthly ways because it is not in their recent history as a body or as an identity. It is in flux and it is chaotic. So it is leaving a lot of them, we will say, freer to be cosmically connected. The gift of this is the ones who are wired for higher consciousness and are given an experience of higher consciousness by those who raise them and the love and the support that they need to become themselves, they will do very, very well, and they will be important leaders for humanity's future. But equally, there will be many who will not know how to ground, because they will not know where they can ground, and they will also be dealing with parents or guardians or caretakers who can't ground at a time where the world is in flux. So this is why any of you who are guardians or parental figures to young people right now, you need to understand that the rule book is very different to when you were growing up. And so you have to be a little more creative, responsive, and unique in the way you guide them, and understand that that's okay. Understand that they are growing up at a very fast time in humanity's history. But if you connect with them soul to soul, heart to heart, higher mind to higher mind, you will have some extraordinary experiences with these children.
That was so beautiful. And I really agree because we're moving into a transitional period as far as raising our children as well. Because in the past, we used to be into this militaristic sort of spare the rod, spoil the child type of energy that we're really moving out of, because studies have shown and we have evolved in realizing that beating on our children and being harsh, kneeling on rice and things like that are very damaging, and it does really compound over the years. And so now we're seeing that our children are here for us to guide, for us to work with. We are stewards of them. We don't own them. Whereas back in the day, we really felt ownership over our children. Now we realize with these millennials, with their phones and this technology and all this knowledge, that our relationship has to transform and change to be one of not necessarily equality, but looking at this child and understanding that it has its own purpose, its own, it's its own being of light, and that we're just here to cultivate that and to help it exist, to protect it, and to raise it in a way that it gives back and it becomes a holistic being.
Yeah, totally. That's where the future lies, right there. So thank you, Jolé. And now we are going to Elena Danaan. She was one of the speakers at the GCIS conference down in Eastbourne in May. And honestly, her work is incredible.
My name is Elena Danaan. I am an awakener. I came here to help and guide humanity reconnecting with their true nature and power, and embracing their sovereignty. I came from a place very far away from here, and like many others, I chose as a mission of heart to come and help humanity of Earth in their great awakening. I was born into this existence from a long ancient line of Baltic shamans. I traveled this planet and worked many years as a field archaeologist, mainly in Egypt, working for the French and the Egyptian governments in Luxor, Karnak, Cairo, the Valley of the Kings, and Dendera. I was initiated there into the secrets and rituals of ancient Egyptian magic. And I followed later the path of the ancient Druids to complete my knowledge and the connection with the magic of the universe. Certified Druidess and Celtic priestess, I worked at service to the human community in Ireland until the day I embraced my mission fully as an awakener for the greater human community of Earth and an emissary of the Galactic Federation of Worlds. Contactee and experiencer since my earliest childhood, I share the knowledge I have learned from my extraterrestrial protectors for the benefit of humankind. I wrote A Gift from the Stars, a book that tells the story of my abductions at the age of 9 by aliens from Zeta Reticuli, and my rescue by benevolent extraterrestrials from the Galactic Federation of Worlds, who have been protecting me all my life, and with whom I remain in contact to this day. This book includes not only my true story, but also the complete repertoire of the alien races involved with Earth, a star map, where they come from, their different agenda, all the alliances, federations and councils, illustrated by myself. I am also the author of Resilience and the French fantasy saga Chandora. Artist, musician, singer, I use my talents at the service of the greater community of the human species. I came here to tell you that we, people, are the disclosure, that we have the power and that we always had it, because it is to us that belongs the sovereignty of this planet. We are extremely powerful. The Great Awakening has started, and this process is irreversible and exponential. In this historical liberation from long millenniums of slavery, I have the privilege to take your hand and guide you to reach the next level in the evolution of consciousness and enter the galactic community as equal beings, free. May you walk and work in the light, and may you be light, because this is what you are made of.
And we're back. So, yeah, light. That is what we're made of.
We're back. Definitely made of light.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? But it's all,
Yes.
this is like our frequency is slowed down till we can get into this physical life, this adventure, this roller coaster. And I don't know about you, but when I did that roller coaster section on there, it kind of makes me feel dizzy every time, you know? I love it.
I had fun.
Yeah. So I find it really, interesting. And just focusing on Elena Danaan. When she spoke at the conference in Eastbourne in May, she is just an incredible person here for a very special purpose. And this idea of being the Earth emissary for the Galactic Federation of Worlds is absolutely right. That is who she is. And they call it, and I kind of put it as Terran, not as in terror, as in frightened, but Terra, as in Terra, because that is the way that the Galactics, that's what they call Earth, is Terra, right? So, um, but yeah, but going back over this, I've got a few points I want to make, and Jolé, just keep firing the questions and let's just make it into a discussion. But I mean, one of the things that was said early on by the Z's was talking, or in fact, by Lee Harris rather than the Z's, but he was talking about Princess Diana, how she was like one of these catalysts. And she was. I mean, she was a catalyst as a human being because she was so kind and compassionate and fearless in what she approached. But people also knew that her death was very suspicious. I mean, well, I say not everybody did. In fact, I believed for the longest time that it was like, because, when prior to my awakening, I mean, I just said, well, how could that have been anything other than an accident? And I kind of know now that, these things happen like the way that they are put together. But it's part of this catalyst thing. The same way when people die in wars, they have agreed that in their life plan that that would be what they would do because it helps to awaken people to the pointlessness of war and to bring people into their heart into compassion and kindness. And it was in conversations with God, he actually said no one dies without their prior agreement. Right now, it's not a conscious agreement, but it's an interesting point. But it also helps us by understanding that. We also know that if events happen in the world and there's a lot of people who leave, transcend this planet at the same time, just know it is part of a divine order. It's part of a divine plan. And it shouldn't stop us from feeling grief. It shouldn't stop us from all those human emotions because that is all we are, also who we are. That's which is exactly what Lee Harris said. So what do you think, Charlie?
I think that is, spot on. It resonates. We really have to stop thinking linearly, I want to say, and also up and down. Maybe there is a way to think along parallels.
Mm,
And that's what you and I think, are trying to create is letting people know, hey, maybe there's more to it than what you've been told or what you've believed. And we're kind of here to explore that. It's
yeah,
not to be afraid of.
yeah. No, and it's a very good point because that linear thing is something which I think in the fifth dimensional world, it's not going to be the same as 3D time as we have it. I think that this is where we start to realize that time has to exist in this physical reality because it's what kind of helps us make sense of it.
Right.
But once you get into these higher dimensional realms, it's different. It's kind of it's supposedly what's the word? Spherical, right? Time is
Yes.
spherical. And you think, well, how does that work, right? Because we think of it as a straight line. Well, it's spherical,
Right.
which is why people can time travel because you can intersect that timeline. It's like when you pass back over to the other side, and if you ever go to a medium and they will be telling you about, they will be talking about things that they couldn't have been for at the time, but they can actually recount it as if they were actually there because they've gone back to look at it.
Yeah, that's very true. Past life regressions have done so much for people, in terms of removing trauma and blocks. So these things really, energy is real. I think there was also a study, the gentleman who does Ho'oponopono, who discovered that. I'm not exactly sure. It could have been Dispenza as well, but they said even praying, having a group of prisoners pray for their past to undo that
Mm.
really reverberated, like it changed some things, which then changed the trajectory of the future.
Yeah.
So this is really some of the stuff that we really got to expand our minds and able in order to be able to tap into it, because these are our gifts.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is why it's so good to have a community around this, because none of this makes absolute sense to all of us, right? You can just read this stuff and you think, well, hang on a second, I've had 65 years of programming that have told me to the contrary. So how can I suddenly now switch to believe that time is no longer linear? It's actually spherical. Well, how does it work? But it starts to make sense. The more
Yeah.
you kind of look at this and you start to then apply, well, that explains why. Right? Because this is one of the interesting things as well. I have to come back to this as well, because it's in Conversations with God when he's talking about religion, and he's talking about the fact that they encourage you never to question, right?
Hmm.
It just is this. Accept it and move forward. Because if you stop and think about it, actually it doesn't make sense. You need a deeper explanation. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like we've almost been brainwashed, well, or not almost, we have been brainwashed into believing this particular version of reality that we've been fed since we were children, and our parents were fed that before them, and then go back thousands of years. Because as Elena herself said, she's here as an awakener to awaken us to the fact that we've been in a period of slavery for thousands of years. And because we've grown up in it, we don't even realize we have been.
Right. It's normal to us. And it totally goes against the laws, but somewhere along the line, we've got to take our power back because we gave it away. Whether it was inadvertently, subconsciously, accidentally, it doesn't matter. It's time for us to take our power back, because what's going on with us is we've signed up to be hosts.
Yes. Yeah. And I think what it is you're thinking back to this, right? So this last 13,000 year cycle of this whole 26,000 year cycle. So it's this precession of the equinox, which is like 26,000 years where the sun travels around the galaxy. I believe it is. And it's broken into two 13,000 year cycles. Atlantis ended the last cycle 13,000 years ago or thereabouts. Then you've got this new cycle, which is the cycle of, separateness. Is the cycle of separation and mind, as opposed to heart and unity. And it's
Yeah.
kind of like, and again, you go back to the hypnotist journey to Avalon, which was Sarah Bressman Cosme, which we studied quite a bit, and probably go back to that at some stage because I find it ultimately fascinating. But the fact is that, we've been going through this cycle of separation, and it's the architect of this is Thoth, right? The architect of ascension. And when Mother Earth, Gaia Mother Earth, put her hand up and said, I want to do this ascension thing, he said, right, okay, first we've got to do this. We have to go into duality. We have to go into this separateness. We have to go through this. So whilst, yes, there are absolutely been protagonists that have dragged us down into a lot more depths, the fact is it is by, divine decree, if you like. But
Hmm.
this is the end of that era. This is the beginning of a new era. This is the beginning of the golden age where we come back into heart-based unity consciousness, which is who we really are. Because, this is something that I think, didn't we to discuss this earlier about saying, like as a fetus, once there's conception, then the first thing that grows is a heart, right? That's all there is. At the outset, is a heart. And then everything else grows out from the heart. And so, the heart is our motherboard, right, to the universe. And that's basically what we're going back to. So I think it is by design, but this is the time that we do wake up. This is the time when we go back into this age of Aquarius, which is, no longer egoic, top-down control, masculine energy. And we're moving more into that feminine energy. We're moving back into that collaborative energy where we work together as a community. And I find it really exciting. And I just want to come to the Elena's books because she mentioned about this, which is the book which I've read a great deal of it. gift from the stars, because I find one of the most interesting things about this is 110 alien races who are connected one way or another to Earth. So they're connected to us one way or another. And it details it. It goes through each one. And in fact, that's where, when I was recounting in recent times the fact that, the reptilians have been around for 15,000 years. And here it is in the book. I go through and I highlight certain sections because I find it really interesting. But yeah, they've been permanently on Terra, as they call it, for 15,000 years and sporadically going back much longer to millions of years. But the only way to get them off the planet is is typically through the intervention of the Galactic Federation of Worlds, or at least with the help of species more advanced technologically in warfare than the invaded population. We are the invaded population, but they are fourth density beings. We're going to the fifth density. They can't survive in a fifth density kind of environment. So they're trying to keep us as low as possible. They work through the Illuminati. They're trying to keep our vibration low. They're trying to introduce more wars, more fear, more anger, but we don't fall for it, because where we have our absolute power is through collective consciousness as well as individual consciousness. And once we step into that power, as we are doing every week now, because we're doing our Pam Gregory meditation every Thursday for anybody who can make it, as well as when we're doing that work with you, Jolé. And each one of those is a collective meditation as well when we go through that. And I think that's beautiful.
It absolutely is. We're waking up, as beings of light. You can see there's a lot of people out there who are beginning to wake up and say, oh, my intuition has connected with this, and they're giving us messages. Now, we all know we need guardrails around our imaginary friends. Nevertheless, it's happening much more than it was before.
Yes, yes, it was. Yeah, and I feel the pace of this now, and as of this month, from that, the Earth split, which we saw early in July, this is now the timeline split where things, and it could mean that, the dark is going to get darker, which enables the light to get lighter, and we see that split get ever wider, which then awakens people, because that's when you start to see that actually this is not just a homogenized thing. This is now getting darker. This is now getting lighter. Where are we going to head? Where do you individually choose to head? Now, one of the things I did want to mention was another book by Elena, which I'm also reading right now. I'm reading a lot of books, but this one, which is Koldas. Koldas Beyond Neptune, and it is a fascinating book. And one of the things, Jolé, that really made me think about this was actually going back to that point, and you spoke about this just a few minutes ago about the young people, right? And how they're different, right? And you've got young people, right?
Yes, yes.
That you're
Very
nurturing.
aware.
Yeah.
Very aware.
And that's important, because when you think about it, if I think about all my friends and relatives, very few are actually awake. So if they're bringing up younger generations, they don't know how to ground. They don't know how to, to work with chakras. They don't know how to treat them any way other than how they were brought up, and replicating that cycle. So it's important. And what was interesting about Koldas Beyond Neptune, this is when Elena, and again, this gets very fantastical, but it is, again, hand on heart, I only share stuff that I believe to be true. But this is where she journeys with Thorhan, is her soulmate, Pleiadian soulmate, who she has lived many lives with over thousands and thousands of years. But they went to Neptune along with another guy who, again, another alien race, as we would look at it. And they went to Neptune. But the reason they went to Neptune was because there's a Stargate in an underwater city on Neptune that goes into a different universe. This different universe has this planet, which is Koldas, right? And you can see one of the Koldassian kind of images on there. And the other thing that makes these books so very readable and so relatable is the quality of Elena's illustrations and pictures. They're outstanding. So, you know, they really do speak to you in more ways than just the words. The visuals kind of help it to really embed itself. And this book has got light, you know, it has light codes in it. You know, you feel yourself awakening as you go through it. So anybody who's curious, I recommend any of her books, but certainly this one is her most recent one because the trip that she did to Neptune was in 2022. And she was there, gone for a couple of months or so, because having gone through the Stargate to Koldas, the reason they had to do it was that was the way then that they could travel to a separate universe again, which has what is called as the architects, which is a very highly evolved species who are architects of universes and species and various things like that. I've only not got to the end of it yet. But what really interested me in amongst that as well was that the way that the Koldassians are as a community, the way they nurture their children, it is absolutely a thing of beauty. And even as I was reading it, I'm thinking that is how New Earth is going to be in the future. This is how we're going to relate to our young folks, and our young folks are going to relate to us.
Mhm.
Because it's just it's based in love. It's definitely not classroom based knowledge learning, teaching people what the previous generation have believed
Mhm.
and embedding it that way is completely different. And when you read it, you just think, wow, we could do this too. We could. We'll do our own version of it, but it will happen. It may take a few years because there's an entire system to dismantle, and a
Mhm.
bit like with the health system, you can't just scrap it all in one day and build a new one the next. You've got to kind of like morph one into the other. But I honestly believe that's where we're going. But this, it gives a beautiful template for how life on Earth is going to be in the future when you look at Caldas. But what really, just one more point I'll make on that before I'll shut up and let you speak. But it actually comes back to the flower of life. One of the things you see represented a lot in the Koldas villages is the flower of life on the side of many buildings.
Mhm.
The understanding is that you know, in fact, let me just I've got a visual for a flower of life here. Just bear with me a second. So what you see here, this is like the Egyptian flower of life. And they're in all the pyramids, all the sacred buildings you will always have seen. There's always flowers of life, which is just interlocking circles. So what you find is that you've got it's like these different universes. They're all over, you know, they all have like a circle, say, for instance, this circle here, if I kind of outline that, which interlinks with other circles along the way. And therefore, there are some that you can skip from one universe to the next through stargates, but you have to go. She
Yes.
had to go Neptune to Caldas to get to where the architect's universe is. So it kind of like interests me because, again, having been a somebody who's studied a lot of Drunvalo's work, right?
Yeah.
The ancient secret to the flower of life. Drunvalo knows a thing or two about this. This is, you know, sacred geometry exists for a reason. And he breaks this down an awful lot. So all this really interlinks. And anyway, before I say any
Isn't that fascinating? Like, and even you can apply it to time because while you were talking about time, I was looking at it as a pattern because you have a clock, right? It goes around. So everything, and even a calendar goes around. So even though they have taken the principle, but they've locked us into something where it's not building upon itself or where we don't have access to these other portals of time. But the flower of life is proving to us that it's all interlinked. We do have access to this. So that's kind of what I guess is the reason why, even in expansiveness and in opening ourselves up to there being other beings and other worlds, we're actually bringing in some of that energy to sort of unlock, open up these portals and really teach us how to remember, I guess,
yeah,
these principles. Because what you're explaining is a pattern, a principle that has come down through the ages and it has not changed. You look at the pineapple, the beehive, the flower of life, all the Fibonacci sequence, the
exactly.
seashell, all of these things are echoing or telling us something powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is connected.
It is. It is. You know, it all comes down to the same kind of things. And I think this is what, you know, to my mind, I love uncovering this stuff. And there was more as well that came through. You know, we talked about Tony Rodriguez, and we're going to
Yes.
explore Tony's work in the future as well, because again, there's very important stuff there that we once we start to realize and open our minds up to what really is out there at the moment, these med beds. And
Hmm.
you know, and I know it sounds ridiculous to say that he lost an arm in a fight with a reptilian on Mars, but that is exactly what happened by all accounts. Now, unless I've misremembered it, but that's what Tony told us. And it's kind of it was the tail, right? The reptilian tail. It just literally severed his arm off. But then he gets taken to the med beds. He survived the attack, as did his friend, and he was taken off to the med beds. They managed to, they were able to replace his arm with one that is just like his arm. I mean, this is incredible technology. And it's like these books here, right? We talked about this a lot. Transylvanian Sunrise by Radu Cinema and Peter Moon, and the etheric crystal, right? This is all about the underground tunnels. This is all about the technology that's been found underground, which is 50,000 years old. And it's consciousness-based technology. So you're not pulling levers and pressing buttons. You're connecting with these computers, if you want to call them that, these
Hmm.
holographic projectors. And you sort of like say in your own mind, I want to understand the true history of humanity. And I say that because that's exactly what Radu Cinema did. He wanted to see the history of humanity playing out. So he actually got to see it. And what he also realized is that it bears no resemblance to the human history that we've been told. No resemblance. So
Hmm.
that is one of the things that is due to unfold to us as well. But this consciousness-based technology, if you know, like if we're talking about alien civilizations that have been around for billions of years and we're actually a relatively new species, there is a hybrid of 20 odd different sort of like different parts of DNA to come together to create the human avatar, right?
Right.
That's what it is. So we have this, this is our technology as it stands at the moment. Yes, we've been accelerating massively over the last 75 to 100 years, 125 years even. But at the same time, this is scratching the surface of where we're heading because as our consciousness rises, we are going to discover this new technology. I love the idea that med beds are coming our way. And I know that the Z's didn't say it was med beds, right? But I
Hmm.
know that they are in
Right.
production on the moon.
Yeah.
So they're going to be coming our way. And but it's a question, and I think you mentioned this to me actually, Jolé, when we discussed this the other day. How will they be charged for, right? Does this go under old Earth technology, and they want to now say,
Right.
yeah,
Is
are
it
they, if all of a sudden these things all have a big price tag attached to them, you say, oh yeah, you want to live forever, you want to do this, you want to do that, you want to use your med beds, okay, right? Have you got the right insurance?
right? Do you have the right bank account number? Because that is going to even be more. This is why this work is so important, because the divide that's happening and that they're trying to create is a chasm that is going to create a thing where, well, I'm wealthy, so I can just get a med bed. And then somebody who is suffering, a child who parents may not have that money, what's going to happen to them? Oh no, you can't be in the med bed.
Yeah,
What's that going to create, right? What kind of energy is that creating? So through meditation, visualization, coming together, working on yourself,
yeah,
you might be able to get a med bed.
yeah. And that's the thing. Well, the new Earth, right? There's no way on new Earth
Not
these
funny,
things are
but
not accessible right throughout the world for anybody who needs it.
right.
That is our future. But we
Yeah.
know what the old Earth version of that would be, right? Because it
Yes.
has been suppressed for a lot of years, because these things have been known about, they've been available.
Yes.
But as with the Rife machine, you know, back in 1923.
I mean, and they've destroyed it. I mean, we have good people out there who are Rife people. You can go online and you can find a Rife machine and they work. And guess what? You don't even know about it. You don't hear about it. All you hear, and then you see these commercials that they'll tell you take this drug, but guess what? It's going to make you vomit. You're going to have a heart attack. You might die. You know, you might get brain cancer. Your leg might fall off, but take this drug.
I know, I know. A pill for everything, as Dolores said. You know, that's what they're trying to sell you. And it's just kind of like, you know, it's nice to know that this era of suppression and secrecy and control is giving way to something beautiful, right?
Yes.
That, you know, is going to feel so good to us because, again, we come to this physical life for contrast, right? Because once we're back in non-physical, you've got love, light, joy, happiness all around you. But
Oh,
the
there
fact is
is.
that to
Mhm.
have the contrast that we have here in the density of Earth means that where we're heading is going to feel absolutely off the scale brilliant because we've had to learn through this duality process.
Right. Absolutely. And that's
Yeah,
what we're going to meditate about too, is really trying to disconnect from the core of that duality or what causes it and really get into unity. Because
yeah,
unity consciousness means that you love yourself and then you can see yourself in other people. Therefore, the love extends and expands, right?
yeah,
Because it's not just you. And if it is you, it's different expressions of you that you're still in love with,
yeah.
you know? So I just look forward to that.
Yes, and I think we should head to the meditation any moment now. And one
Yes.
final thing to mention before we do so, actually, is Isa Visanti, who does the breath work and the
Uh-huh.
dyad and various other things. I'm a member of her group now, and she does brilliant work. I love her work. But on the 22nd of July, on Mary Magdalene Day, they are
Hmm.
doing a pilgrimage 16 miles around the lake in order to go to the holy site. And she asked if there could be prayers and meditation, or prayers basically, offered by Sunday evening at the latest, because that energy is going to help them to really take that in there. And let's face it, group consciousness energy is really high, and it's for a beautiful cause. So thought I'd throw that in there.
And her, what's the name of, what's her name?
It's Isa Visanti.
The Santi.
Visanti.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Mary Magdalene pilgrimage round the lake, 22nd of July.
And
So
that's this week.
that's this week. That's in just 2 days' time. So,
Awesome.
okay, so right. I see that we have our shamanic friend here, Sean the Shaman,
Hi,
Conjure the
Sean.
Priest. She's made it 2 weeks in a row. Brilliant. We love you. Thanks for being here, along with everybody else. We love you too. But it's that time now, right? We're going to go into
Yes.
meditation. So I'm going to just step aside and leave you to work your magic. We're going to start with a little bit of the Z's to lead us in. But
Yes.
beyond that, we'll see you. I'll see you on the other side, and thank you in
All
advance.
righty then.
Here we go.
The most important thing for any of you on any given day is to ask yourself, how am I doing today? And be honest with yourself about how you are feeling. And if you are feeling in a way that feels distressing or difficult or heavy or painful for you, ask yourself, what can I do today to bring myself some soothing, some relief, or some light? And you can choose a very small, simple, short activity. You may decide you need to give yourself 2 hours away from what it is that you need to do in order to reset. It will be different on different days, but don't forget yourselves in these times. It's very easy for any of you to get pulled into the out there of it all. This is a very important time for you to not only come back to who you are, but discover who you are at this very new time on earth, and therefore this very new time in who you are.
Take a deep breath in. Exhale gently and relax your body. Your feet flat on the floor, your palms face up on your thighs. For those of you laying down, please keep your feet flat for the beginning part of the meditation. And as you breathe with the rhythm of your body, visualize a grounding cord between your sit bones at your first chakra, being created and moving through the layers of Mother Earth. Just visualizing and seeing your grounding cord as it begins to move at the speed of love and roots itself into Mother Earth's core, receiving all of her nurturing life force energy. We pull in our aura to be 1.5 feet around us as a golden rose-shaped scrubbing bubbles blanket the inside and the outside of our grounding cord. Our astral body snaps in, feet and feet, knees and knees, hips and hips, hands and hands, elbows and elbows, head and head, fitting inside of us like a hand fits inside of a glove. And our higher self is standing at the power position above our crown. And this is our soul architecture, locked in and ready to work. So take a deep breath in, exhale, and visualize the bottoms of your feet opening like the lens of a camera. And call in 15%, an energetic 15% earth energy. And when you say this, the universe knows exactly what to do and the amount to send you. While simultaneously, I want you to please visualize your crown opening like the lens of a camera and beautiful golden cosmic life force energy raining down, cascading down, raining on your higher self, the aura layer. It opens up and your crown is open and this golden light pours in and it begins to work with your mind, your brain, closing down those synapses and neurotransmitters that fail to serve the rest of your journey and opening up the ones that do, the ones that speak to health, wellness, success, abundance, and alignment with the laws of the universe and your purpose. And as that golden essence then saturates the brain and the face and the skin and the fascia, it moves down the spine, lighting up each vertebra and pushes that light out of your chakras, the front and the back of you, cleaning them out of anything that no longer serves you, anything you're ready to let go of and release. As this golden essence makes its way down your spine and into the
Apologies. I think we've somehow lost the audio there for Jolé. Whether we've lost her completely, I'm not sure. Jolé, are you still there with us? Never happened before, but I did notice that there were a few little gremlins and anomalies going on earlier when things were freezing. So I apologize. I think Jolé may still be meditating away because she won't be that focused on the fact that the connection's been lost. So, oh dear, that's a shame. Let me just send her a WhatsApp message. This is what happens when you're live. I'm going to try calling her. She's probably got the volume fit switched off on the phone. I know I do. Okay. That's a shame. Tell you what we're going to do. We're going to record the meditation again separate to this. We're going to include it on the show. And basically, so when this goes out as the edited recording, then you don't get me chuntering on here. You're going to get Jolé's meditation in totality. But I think that what's happened is that her connection has been dropped completely. So it's kind of a little stymied us here. What can I say? But yeah, collectively re-engage. You know, I think this is what we're going to do. Appreciate that, Donna. We're going to just basically, I suppose, I think what we're going to have to do is this. We're going to close off the program as it is now, and we are going to come back to you with the edited recording, which will have the full meditation, and we will be able to share it with you that way instead. So other than that, we're gonna finish this for now, and we're gonna, I don't know, maybe we'll get us together. I'll kind of send out another invitation somewhere for us to kind of finish this show off. But we can at least, you know, I mean, put it this way. Tomorrow the newsletter goes out with the edited version of this. Oh, I see. Now Jolé's just come back to say it's not letting me log back in. Oh dear. So do you know what it is? It's the Illuminati. We're getting too big for our boots, and they decided, right, that's it. Right, switch Jolé off. We don't want any of this collective consciousness nonsense. Because they know how powerful it is and how powerful we are. But yeah, okay, so here we go. This is me finishing it off, and we are going to come back to you with the edited recording, which is going to have the full meditation and everything, and we're going to finish it off in style because we know we love our guided meditations visualizations by Jolé. So, okay. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Newsletter goes out tomorrow with the edited version, and you know we'll do a joined up version of this so we can finish this off separately. Anyway, love you loads. Thank you very much for being here with us today. Apologies that the technology didn't work out. We might be getting medbed sometime soon, but we haven't quite joined up all the video technology yet. But yes, thank you. Oh yeah, and Isa, a little note here from Isa. I will read your prayers on our walk, and offer them to the feet of the Mother Shrine. May we all be liberated. Yes. So if you have any prayers that you want to share, then send it through our WhatsApp group, which is connected in the details below. So anything that Isa can take there with her, then that would be wonderful. Anyway, other than that, guys, thank you very much for being here, and I will be back with you, or we will be back with you sometime very soon. We'll be sending it out again tomorrow. So thank you. Take care. Love you.